Okay, so in the previous lesson I was doing, well, let's show you what I was doing. Just to remind you, I was erasing certain areas just to bring a little bit of form, a little bit of interest into what I was doing. But you've actually got some tools which can make your life very interesting. Let's come to this area here. In fact, I'll come to my paintbrush, DC Simple Round Deep. I'm going to directly sample from my painting. That's the way it works. You start off by using colours from your palette. As you start to get further down the road, that's the point where you can start to sample colours directly from your canvas. It has the effect of making everything look a little bit more consistent. Let's take this little area down here, which is deep and very simple. I'm going to come to my smudges. I've got blend and glaze selected. I'm going to come to DC Texturizer 3. My brush size, yeah, that should be big enough because it does splurge out a little bit. Watch what happens with this. I'm going to press hard and move in. Look at that. If you are used to contemporary watercolors, you might recognize this texture, because in modern watercolor, you do things like you sprinkle salt on top of your picture to get an interesting texture. You have things called granulating mediums. You have special granulating paints. You might deliberately use special kinds of papers which are very textured. It's all about getting interesting textures. And these brushes are there to emulate that. Now I moved from a light area to a darker area. Let's try a little bit around here as well. And what I'm getting are some rather interesting textured effects, the kind of textured effects that you would get by using these modern watercolor techniques. They're all sitting here just waiting for you to have fun. And this makes everything look just so much more interesting. Now there is one thing with this I've noticed. I went from a very light area with no paint and pushed into the area with dark paint, and I got this kind of effect. What about if I go the other way from the darker area to where there's no paint? I'm not so sure that gives me the effect I want. In fact, it's made things look rather dull. This is just me. I found the best way to do this is to push from no painter area into a painter area, or at least from a lighter area to a darker area. Now I'm feeling so pleased with myself that I think, okay, I'll just do that everywhere. No, I won't. You need this in certain localized areas. And if I push again and again and again, you notice that I don't get a different set of smudges. I get a more pronounced effect in certain areas. I don't get new textures put down. I get more of the paint scrubbed away. If I press very lightly, I get more of a subtle effect. But come on, let's just scrub away and get rid of those slightly blobby areas that I had when I had the original borders. You know, there's still a little bit down here. If needs be, I can always come to, what was it, DC Texturizer 3, which is in the blend and glaze section. Let's see, Texturizer 3. I can just come in and I can erase those areas. Oh, let's take the opacity right the way up so it's no nonsense. And I can do things that way. Now, since I'm feeling so happy about this, let's try it someplace else. Let's try a different one. Let's try DC Texturizer 2. What's that look like? Let's come to the top. I'm using Erase. I could have used Smudge. Let me do that again. It's okay, but it's looking a little bit small compared to that previous texture. And a little bit, look, if I do it and then I zoom out, that's starting to look a little bit indistinct to me. So what I can do is just come, tap on the name Texturizer 2. That takes me to the Brush Studio. And then if I come to the grain, the scale of this, which I'm circling now, is 21%. What about if I moved it up to, say, 33%? Then I come and do the same thing. That is giving me the kind of scale that matches the previous texture a little bit better. So please bear in mind, if your scale is off a little bit, you can always do this. You've got a choice then. Come to DC Texturizer 2, the scale is set to 33%. I might decide that I don't want that. I want to do my temporary work and then I want to go back in and reset this. So come down to about this brush and come to Reset Brush. Are you sure you want to? Yes, I do. Now if I come back to the grain, you can see the scale's gone down to what it was before. But if you decide you want to do that permanently, that you want the texturizer to, but larger scale, but also keep the original, all you need to do is just slide to the left, come to duplicate. I've got texturizer 3. Let's drag that underneath and come and change the scale to whatever you want. What was it? Around 35%. I would tap on it and rename it and call it texture 2 large. So now you know it's the same texture, but it's large. Tap on it again, then you come to about this brush and you create a new reset point. And once you press that, it will remember all of the changes that I've just made. And that's how you create a variation of your existing brush. Now, there are a few things I want to do here as well. Let's come down to our watercolor brushes. Now, what shall I use for this? DC Eraser Crackly Edge. Yeah, I like this one. Because what this enables me to do, opacity on 100%, is come to the edge. Let's find an area where it's much more obvious what's happening. Let's try this dark area here. See that? It's a clean erase, but you're getting the kind of edge that you get with a watercolor painting. So I can just chip away at these stray bits just around the side of Luna's ear. Maybe just a little bit around here just to take away some of those slightly frayed edges which I wouldn't expect to see when you're using the kind of techniques that we've just used in the real world, just to neaten things up. At this point, we're doing so many things here, and we're using so many brushes at quite a rate that you can start to forget which brushes you're using. Now, in a previous video, I did say to you, well, create a new layer, which I call a utility layer, and you might put your colors on there and also the names of the brushes and what sizes you used. But I am going too fast to do this comfortably. I need to be in the flow where I'm creating stuff. And having to name the brushes and the sizes is just going to slow me down and take me out of that creative zone. Don't want that. So this is what I'm going to do. I will come to any of either the paint or the blend or the erase. I'll come to the paint and come to the recent tab. These are the brushes I've been using. The recent list updates whenever you use a new brush, and I'm going to lose the ones from the bottom. So come to the top left of your iPad. You have the on-off button plus one of the volume buttons. Press them both at the same time. There's your screenshot. In the bottom left, tap on the screenshot. You have little lines just around the border where you can drag in and crop what you've got like this. And then if I press the tick mark in the top right, I can save to files. I can go to my iCloud or somewhere on your iPad, come to temp, save it there. Then come to your layers panel, colors is selected. My very top layer, I want this to be at the top. Then come to insert a file, iCloud Drive. I put it in my temp folder. There's my screenshot. Drop it in. And generally speaking, I would prefer to put it towards the left because I read from left to right. Make it invisible. You don't even need to rename this because you open it up and you know exactly what you're looking at. You're looking at all the brushes you used at a particular point in your drawing. Now, as you go through the drawing process, you might find you use other brushes much more. In fact, that is likely to happen. So the reason I put it on the left-hand side is because I read from left to right. So now I have all my early brushes all laid out on the left. If I need to record more brushes, I would screenshot the updated recent list and put it to the right of this, and then go to the right and to the right and to the right. So I have a permanent record of all the brushes I used for this particular painting. I will not have the opacities. I will not have the sizes. But this is a trade-off between not wanting to spend all my time recording what brushes I'm using and not wanting to forget what brushes I used. All right, so let's make that invisible. Let's move our reference photo over to the side a little bit, make it a little bit smaller. I think for the rest of this video, and I might fade out at some point, I just want to add some finer paint detail. Like, for example, let's just use soft wash. I want to use yellow ochre. It's slightly less saturated than raw sienna. Brush opacity, let's try around 50%, and brush size, let's try around, say, 4%. Make sure I'm on the right layer, the paint layer. And I'm looking at areas just around, say, the side of Luna's eyes. I can see little bits of yellow there. And so I'm just going to add little bits of detail here to hopefully sell a picture. Sell the idea of a picture. I don't mean sticking it on Etsy or anything like that. Anyway, I'm going to go around now. Oh, let's try crackly edge for this, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to go around and I'm going to start adding in various details to this, just to sell the idea. In fact, I think I might fade out at this point and fade back in, because I think I've said everything I wanted to say. And anything beyond this is going to be you watching me paint, which, when you see someone a bit better than me doing a really good painting, yeah, lovely. DC Soft Wash is the wrong brush for this. I need to come back to watercolor brushes. Simple, round, deep, because I need the colors to build up. There, and get darker. Anyway, this is all about helping you to get the best out of the Drippy Cat Art Studio. And so maybe now might be the time for me to fade out and fade back in when I can tell you some more about the different brushes that we can use to create our effects.